Hello and welcome to the Airman Certificate Testing Service ACTS contract briefing given by the Airman Testing Branch AFS 630. We have gotten a lot of questions about who will benefit from this information. The people who need to know this information is anyone who will take an FAA knowledge test for an Airman certificate on or after January the 13th of 2020. So what is an Airman? An airman is any person who holds an FAA certificate. That, of course, is pilots, but it also includes mechanics, flight engineers, IAs, and UAS operators under Part 107, to just name a few. People who want to operate an unmanned aircraft for recreational use only do not need to know and/or follow the information that will be presented in this webinar. So what is recreational use? It is any UA operation that is not under Part 107. In other words, you're flying your unmanned aircraft for personal pleasure only. With that being covered, let's get started. In this briefing, we will cover a description of the testing program, we will describe the contract, talk about the transition phase, the key transition dates, and I will walk you through an IACRA registration, and we'll finish with contact information. There are two delivery programs that are used to provide testing services to the general public and to those who serve in the U.S. military. Currently, there are over 800 testing centers and 2,000 plus proctors who support and administer FAA knowledge testing to the public. The testing services for our military personnel is located at 50 military installations, and those tests are administered by 225 proctors. The FAA administers over 150,000 tests per year. It is one of the largest and most complex testing systems in the world and any industry. The Airman Testing Branch, AFS 630, manages 86 different exam types for airman testing. These tests range from mechanics to pilots, flight engineers, flight navigators, and UAS, to just name a few. The ACTS contract was awarded to PSI Services, LLC last year. The contract is to provide a comprehensive best practices approach to enhance the quality of airman testing. The services that PSI is contracted to deliver is assistance in test development, delivery, analysis, and the enhancement of testing items to the testing supplements. The testing platform that has been in use for many years, IBS, has served the FAA well. Like all technology, it has become obsolete and is no longer supported by the company that developed it. The new testing platform will provide the FAA with many new opportunities to improve our knowledge tests. These benefits will be explained in the upcoming slides. The ACTS contract is 10 years, with 3 of those as base years and 7 option years. The contract is zero cost to the government. The primary stakeholders in airman testing is all applicants for an FAA Airman certificate, the training industries for those airmen, instructors, non-certified training providers, evaluators, aviation safety inspectors, and designees. The contracting officer's representative for the testing services is Ryan Smith in AFS 630. I will provide contact information for the Airman Testing Branch at the end of the presentation. The new testing system will provide benefits for not only the FAA, but also for an applicant who is taking a knowledge test. Some of these are a reduction in question harvesting, greater collaboration and question management from FAA and select industry SMEs. Public and military testing will now be housed in one platform. This includes test registration and replacement of knowledge test reports when needed, continuous and better analysis of test performance, better alignment of knowledge testing and the testing standard, And finally, more specific feedback to applicants. The Integrated Airman Certification and Rating Application, I will refer to it as IACRA from here on, will play an important part in the new testing system. We will look at those in the upcoming slides. I will also demonstrate how to create an IACRA account, which is how a person will receive their FAA Tracking Number, or FTN. The FAA has relied on the 3-answer format for knowledge questions since testing began many years ago. With the new system, we will be able to explore and implement new testing methods such as automatic item generation, drag and drop, video and audio capabilities, and more scenario-based questions. We will also be able to enhance applicant performance through enhanced metrics and reporting capabilities. January the 13th, 2020 is an important date for the ACTS testing system. On that day, the public will see the first of the changes associated with the system. Here are those forward-facing changes. First, the FAA Tracking Number, FTN, is currently used for applications once they are submitted through IACRA, or when a paper certification package reaches the Airman Certification Branch, AFB 720. The tracking number allows the applicant and any certifying officer the ability to pull up airman information in a consistent format, leaving little room for errors associated with an applicant's name. Currently, when the applicant provides the Knowledge Test Center with a version of their name that differs from the IACRA registration or paper application, it can lead to instances of inconsistent name format, spelling, and other details around how an applicant's name is depicted in the various systems associated with airman certification. Names showing a middle initial versus spelled out middle name, dropping or adding a suffix, the use of surnames and suffixes, and confusion regarding name order, especially for foreign applicants, can lead to returned files and lengthy delays in the certification process. By requiring all applicants to obtain an FTN by creating an IACRA profile prior to registering for a knowledge test, it allows us to rely on the name in the profile for all actions associated with that applicant. Also, by pointing all applicants to the 5-minute process of creating an IACRA profile and the PSI provided online registration for knowledge tests, it encourages the use and comfort with web-based applications. This encourages the use of IACRA and gets us one step closer for a web-based application for all airman certificates. The Airman Certification Branch spends over $150,000 per year returning incorrect applications, many of which are returned due to the problems with the airman's name. These issues could be helped with starting the process in IACRA and providing a consistent name throughout the application process. The second change that will occur is the embossed seal will no longer be put onto a knowledge test report. A designee will still review the report. However, it is not the responsibility of designee to ensure that the knowledge test report is valid. Checking the validity of the knowledge test report is the responsibility of the FAA in the Airman Certification Branch. The third change is for those knowledge tests that are associated with an Airman Certification Standard, ACS. The ACS codes will be printed on the knowledge test report to show the questions that were missed on the knowledge test. For those tests that do not yet have an ACS, learning statement codes will still be used. It is important to note that tests are not changing. We have seen some on social media sites that a person should hurry up and take their test now before all these changes occur. That is not the case. There are only 3 changes. The first is the requirement of an FTN. The second the removal of the embossed seal. And third, knowledge tests that have an associated airman certification standard will now have the ACS codes on the knowledge test report for questions that were missed during the test. Testing itself will not change. One of the most anticipated changes that applicants, instructors, and evaluators will see is the addition of ACS codes for questions that were missed on the knowledge test. This slide shows the knowledge test reports that will have ACS codes for missed questions on the knowledge test. The most common will be the private pilot airplane, instrument rating airplane, commercial pilot airplane, and the unmanned aircraft general. The three-letter codes you see on the slide is how we identify our tests. The majority of the questions we have been getting are about the need for an FAA tracking number, the FTN. For most pilot applicants, this is not an issue. A person who wants to obtain a pilot certificate has already created an IACRA account when they applied for their student pilot certificate. The one exception to this could be military competency applicants. They might need to get an FTN. People who are taking the UAS or drone certification test will probably not have an FTN either. They will need to get one before they take the certification test. Most of the questions are from mechanic and parachute rigger applicants. We will look at those in the next few slides. I will then cover the steps required to register in IACRA and to get an FTN. If you have been issued an airman certificate in the past, then you already have an FTN, whether you realize it or not. This does include mechanics, parachute riggers, and UAS operators. If you have any FAA issued certificate, you have an FTN. Go to the IACRA website and log in or register for a new account. If you are a certificate holder, make sure you enter your certificate number during the registration process. Again, beginning January the 13th of 2020, all mechanic, IA, and parachute rigger applicants must establish an FAA tracking number, the FTN, from IACRA before taking any FAA knowledge test. There will also no longer be an embossment or raised seal on the applicant's knowledge test report, and the applicant will also have the ability to reprint lost or destroyed airman knowledge test reports from the testing vendor's website. Applicants for FAA certificates such as mechanic, IA, and parachute rigger do not yet have an electronic certification path in IACRA to utilize for certification. For those certificate types, IACRA is only used for obtaining an FTN prior to registering for an Airman Knowledge Test report, Airman Knowledge Test. I will say this one more time because there are a lot of questions about this. Mechanic, IA, and parachute rigger applicants will use IACRA only to obtain an FTN. Your certification paperwork will still be processed in the same way it is now. Now we will cover the steps of creating an integrated airman certification rating application, also known as IACRA. This is a simple process that should not take more than a few minutes. To start, use your favorite search engine and find the IACRA page. You can simply put IACRA in the search box to find the page. This is what it looks like. Once you have found the IACRA page, look at the top right side of the page and you will see this box. You will click the register link and that will take you to the registration page. You do not need to put a username or password here because you do not have a username or password yet. just click the register link seen here. You will next have to choose your role in the process. You will check the applicant box. You will see that there are many other options on the page. The people who those choices apply to already know that they are to choose those roles. You must now scroll to the bottom of the page and click the Agree to TOS, which is Terms of Service, and Continue. You will now be on the user profile information page. We will leave this blank for our demonstration. As I said earlier, those who already hold an FAA certificate do have an FTN. If this applies to you, you will put your certificate number here. That will tell the system to look you up, and it will give you the FTN that was assigned to you during the certification process. You'll now enter your information. This is just like many other applications you have probably done many times. There are a few options here. If you do not have a first or middle name, check the box you see next to the name block. You will have to enter your email address. The next block is your security questions. There are many choices in the drop-downs. Choose ones that you will remember. If you forget your username and/or password, you will need the correct answers to these questions to reset your username and/or your password. The next step is to create your username and password, and you will do that in this box. Once you have entered your information, if there is a problem, the system will tell you, and it will show you where there is an issue. Once you have all of the information correct, this is what you will see. You are now ready to get your FTN. You will click the Register button. We now have our FTN. Write it down, don't lose it, and don't forget you will need this number to take your knowledge or written test. When you actually make your account in IACRA, it should not take as long as it took us to go through these steps. It is really a simple and quick process, just like many other applications you may have filled out before. Now that you have successfully gotten your FTN from IACRA, you can now register and schedule your next FAA knowledge test with our testing vendor, PSI. You can do this by going to PSI's website, where you will be guided on how to create an account with PSI so you can register and schedule your next FAA knowledge test. Please note, this will not go into effect until January the 13th of 2020. Again, this will not change until January the 13th of 2020. To summarize this presentation's key points, effective January the 13th of 2020, all airmen seeking FAA certification must register in IACRA and obtain an FTN prior to taking any FAA knowledge test. Airman knowledge test reports will no longer contain an embossed seal. And finally, ACS codes will appear on Airman knowledge test reports for ACS-based tests only. All others will still use learning statement codes. This ends the presentation, and we thank you for watching this informational video. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us here at the Airman Testing Branch. There are also links to the pages in the Airman Testing Branch's webpage. This does include frequently asked questions. If you need an answer right away, you'll probably find it here.